The next team we face has scored a lot of goals against other teams this season, but that shouldn't scare us. Let's strategize so that we can be competitive. A quick reminder, please practice your techers at home. Come to training, practice those techers there. Use a Technique Football app, or without the Technique Football app, it doesn't matter. If you get those touches in, if you practice those skill moves, you will become more comfortable in the ball and you will be more effective out there on the field. We could have the best strategy in the world, but if we don't have a good first touch, we don't control the ball, all that good strategy gets thrown out the window. So let's practice whenever possible, okay? Now, here's the setup. We're the team in red. Here's our wonderfully colorful goalkeeper dressed in yellow, and we're going this way to score against team blue. And here's another thing. This is really actually a nut, but let's just pretend for a moment that this is a soccer ball. Work with me, girls. So we're on the attack here. This is a scenario that might happen where we're attacking, but we lose the ball here, and the other team has a fast, strong striker that they just play the ball through, and then they get around us and score, okay? So fast that we don't know what's happened. Let's prevent that from happening. We're gonna go with something I'm gonna call Plan C. Now, let's review super quick what the other plans are. What the heck is Plan A and Plan B? If you remember, Plan B is what we talked about last week, which is if we lose a ball and then win it back, even if we win it back in their half, we're gonna play the ball back to our keeper's feet, and then we're gonna start building back up the attack from there, okay? And then we can go to goal and score. That's Plan B. Plan A is something that we normally do, which is we're gonna have a high line of defense to form a net. Here's our center back. Here's our fullbacks. They're getting into the attack maybe even. And we connect with each other, we find the spaces, and we score. We lose the ball, we win it back somewhere in this half, and we pressure really hard and fast. And then they cough up the ball, we can score as well. That's Plan A, that's our normal game, okay? So what the heck is Plan C? I'll explain. We want to make this half, our half, a fortress that they are going to have a hard time getting through. So if we're on the attack and we lose the ball in their half, we're going to start to retreat. We're going to make this center line our line of defense. Now, the number 9, the striker, can cheat a little bit. They can get all the way up to maybe this center circle. And we're going to make this a defensive trigger. What does that mean, defensive trigger? Basically, it's this. They once they cross the line, we're immediately going to pressure and apply that pressure and try to win the ball back from here. But we're going to wait until they cross that line. The striker is going to have a different trigger. Their defensive trigger is all the way up here, okay, to this circle line, into their half. So they cross that line, the center back's going to try to pressure and try to cough up the ball. Otherwise, everybody else, this center line is our defensive trigger. And we're going to have everybody back here. And the defense is going to be compact and organized. So they're going to have a harder time getting through the middle. If they're going to find any space, it's going to be out wider. Okay? So we're going to give up that space a little bit so that they don't score directly through here. We're going to make their job harder coming through the middle. Okay? So why do we do something like that? The answer is simple. It's a numbers game. So if we have more people in our half, it's harder to get through and dribble through all of us and pass through all of us to score on us. If we are able to win the ball back here, it's going to be easier because there's only half of the field to win the ball back from and defend, as opposed to winning the ball back with the entire field in mind. Here we have smaller space. That smaller space actually helps us because it's harder for them to get through this area. They're not going to go through the middle. None shall pass. Here's the other part. what happens if and when we win the ball back? We're going to counterattack. So that's going to require the striker to be able to spring that counterattack, show for where the ball is at. They're going to anticipate if and when we win the ball back, they can be better in a position to launch a counterattack. Because what's going to happen is, in their desperate attempt to score against us, against our fortress, they might forget about our little old striker here. Okay? So if they forget about the striker, we're able to launch a ball, maybe even through a ball. It doesn't even have to be direct. If the striker is not directly in the line of sight, this fullback who just won the ball can simply play an indirect ball out into this space. And that will then allow the striker to latch onto it, this indirect ball. You've just played the ball into space, okay? And they're off into the races to try to score 1v1 against the keeper, while their defense is scrambling to catch up because they don't realize what just happened here. Now, that's a lot of information to take in, but I'm going to need to show you one more thing that you need to be aware of. Another way girls teams score a lot in this age level is sending really long balls just down the field, okay? You've seen this before. They just boot the ball, and then if we can't control that, one of their strikers can get onto that loose ball and try to score. Now, some people will say that's a cheap way of scoring, but it is what it is but a lot of the girls are not as tall as Trinity Rodman yet. So until that happens, some of those long balls, if left uncontrolled and left to bounce, can be trouble to deal with that big bounce, okay? So here's a couple of strategies. And we were practicing this the other day in training. Is one, they send the ball down. We're going to have to judge the trajectory and flight of that ball so that by the time it bounces, we're going to control that. So it's not an uncontrollable bounce over our heads. We're going to try to trap the ball, control that ball, and then we'll be able to move that ball back up the field. There's a lot of different options if you can control that ball. That's the number one priority, okay? Now, if it bounces, and even it bounces over your head, the worst case scenario, all is not lost either. In this scenario, we're now chasing the ball, and we've got the other team breathing down our necks. Our back is to these people who want to take control of the ball and try to steal our lunch. There's options here. Yeah, you can turn it if you have time, but if you don't, and you're right under danger if you try to turn it, there's other solutions here. The goalkeeper can come off their line away from their net, and you can play a ball to their feet. A good clean pass will be able to get this ball temporarily out of pressure until they send somebody to try to pressure the keeper. But that should give enough time and space for our fullbacks, our defenders, even midfielders to come in and give options for the keeper to distribute out from. And we can start playing out from the back from there. The worst case scenario is if the keeper has the ball and they're getting closed down in space, the keeper is going to just take another extra touch while they're being chased down. And yeah, they're going to have to clear it. Either in the middle, if you can find a target somewhere in here, or you might be able to find a winger out wide. And this is actually safer because if they can't control it, the worst, it might just go out of bounds and then we lose the ball. But at least it's in a less dangerous area that we lose the ball at.